like to ask you one or two questions about what motivated you originally to purchase this land, and what was your intention, because it's become quite a fruitful community.
I used to live in Europe, and at the time I started to get a very strong sense of urgency about the future of the planet, the way we were treating the planet. And 25 years ago I found myself in Australia, and fortunately the government was open to encouraging groups of environmentalists and alternative people to get together and form communities on some of the old dairy farms which were going bankrupt. And so at the time, because of the whole dairy industry going bankrupt, because the European community had stopped trading with Australia all of a sudden, so it was a very unusual situation. And large farms were very cheap in this prime area. The way forward for humanity was to learn how to cooperate again, living in communities in the countryside, on the land, so they could reconnect with nature and with each other, and that this would be a big contribution to healing the planet. And I certainly feel now, this is 25 years later, and the urgency now is really, really very, very strong, because we're having effects on the planet which are almost irreversible. So if we don't start cooperating, living together, returning forests, bringing the forests back, and not consuming so much, living in big cities, etc. We have to do some drastic things now. But as a simple example, one dairy cow destroys 5,000 trees in its lifetime, which is strange considering it's a sort of gentle vegetarian. But for that animal to be there, you have to remove 5,000 trees. And all the associated wildlife that used to live in those forests will be destroyed and killed. So it's a terribly bad bargain, really, and the soil itself, the land, just becomes depleted and eventually can turn into dust, which is particularly in southern Australia, where you see these great big dust storms engulfing Melbourne periodically. That's why. It's because the pioneers and the current farmers are carrying on keeping that as grazing land, overgrazed. And so really it's something people need to realise, that what they do from day to day is actually destroying their own planet for their children. And if not for them, because who knows how long it's going to take to turn the whole of Australia into a desert. And this magical cottage behind us is the one that I built. I was able to build that in my own time, and it's a great example of affordable housing, because at the time it cost 25,000 Australian dollars, about £10,000, equivalent of £20,000 today. So pretty much most people could afford to have one. And we got that through a cheap piece of land that used to be a dairy farm, and just made out of recycled windows and doors, and but Australian hardwoods. I got all the rocks from the local quarry, just went down there with some friends and loaded up a few trucks full of rocks, and it's not that difficult to do stonework, really, if you've got time and you don't worry about the saleability too much.
How long did it take you to build it?
Well, I built it in as a relaxed way as possible. It took me about a year actually to build this place. But you know, all recycled windows and doors, and the rock is obviously very old. So yeah, it was good fun, and people can help each other build their houses on communities, because they've usually got more time. if they don't have mortgages and rents to pay.